Hello, I am Viral Vinnie. I infect the internet with more useless opinions. Now, as hard as this may be to believe, the PS4 is already a year old. And while I'm sure a lot of people are going to be spending this holiday season going back and playing all the great PS4 games that came out this past year, I wanted to instead focus on the last generation and all the great things that the PS3 gave us. I mean, yes, there was a lot of obvious things like better visuals and more expansive worlds, but there was also a big emphasis on story for this generation. We really wanted to make characters that you could not only relate to, but you could sympathize with and had real feelings for. So that's why I want to honor the PS3 by listing the top 10 PS3 games. Now, of course, there is one small problem with this. There's no possible way I could have played the hundreds upon hundreds of games released either in stores or on the PlayStation Network. So that's why I'm going to have two caveats for that list. The first is I personally have to have played the game. I'm sure there's going to be a ton of games I just didn't get to for whatever reason. And while I'm not saying those are bad, I just want to be able to speak personally to say what makes each of these games great and really makes them stand out from the rest of the bunch. And the second one is, I only want one game from each franchise. That way, Uncharted's not clogging the top 5. But also, so we really get the best of the best. And really shows these are the top 10 best PS3 games. But besides that, anything else is fair game. So, without further ado, let's get to the list.
One of the best things to have happened for the PlayStation 3 was the introduction of PlayStation Plus. Beyond the discounts, early offers, and other bonuses, the biggest draw has been the flood of free games offered every month. While I have discovered many great games this way, the one game that has stuck out the most has been Alice Madness Returns. The most popular genre this generation was FPS games, so I was extremely upset by the lack of any action or platforming games. I think that's why I love Alice so much, because it plays just like a lot of the greats from the PlayStation 1 and 2. The characters are simple, but have so much personality. The gameplay is basic, but has many layers and depth to it. The world of this game was one I wanted to explore more, and the mystery throughout the story is one that keeps you guessing and wanting to find out more until the very end. The biggest testament I can give to this game is the fact that before this, I didn't know much about this series, but now I'm eagerly anticipating any news of the sequel to this hidden gem. True, it's not the best game I've played this generation, but bar none, no other game has made me smile and miss the old days quite like this game did. Simply put, it was a simple game for simple folks. Arguably, one of the biggest new franchises this past generation has been Assassin's Creed. It has become a huge part of gaming, with an already long list of different games to choose from. And while all of them have been good, the one I had the most fun playing, and have the most love for, is hands down Revelations. Sure, other games have offered big improvements or more gameplay, but I feel Revelations hit the right balance of all things. It offered enough new gameplay additions to stand out, while refining past ones as well. Assassin's Creed 3 certainly offered an insane amount of things to do, but some of them were more interesting than others. Revelations nicely balanced everything evenly, so each activity you could do had weight and importance. It also had a small but very replayable endgame with your bases being constantly attacked, as well as a still unique and challenging multiplayer. Combine this with the fulfilling send-off to Altair and Ezio, a new city bursting with life and variety, a story that actually reveals things, and all the improvement from the past games, and you have the best Assassin's Creed I've played so far. One of my favorite series on the PS2 was Sly Cooper. With each game, the series and developer Sucker Punch got better and better, but with the end of Sly 3, it seemed like my thieving days were done. Now it wasn't until developer Sanzaru not only made the HD collection, but decided to bring Sly back into the spotlight with a new game. Obviously, I was a little nervous about a new developer tackling one of my favorite series, but I have to say they knocked it out of the park. Great art style, the old voice cast returning, same great structures of missions that were introduced in 2, but also with the added benefits of new powers and family members to play as. This bag of tricks doesn't reinvent the wheel, but it does offer a new fun way to look at approaching levels. Every aspect of the game has the same humor and charm as before, be it in the unique levels, enemies, or the new family members you meet. It was funny and beautiful and everything we could have hoped for in another Sly game. Ever since Super Smash Bros. Came out, us PlayStation fans have been waiting for our own version to beat up our favorite mascots, and when it finally came out, it didn't disappoint. Many people complained about the scoring system in the game, but honestly, once you get over the hump that this isn't Super Smash Bros., it's a very fun game in its own right, and in many ways, much deeper. While still crazy and chaotic, All-Stars is a much more deliberate and focused on what you need to do. This is a serious fighting game, and it takes real practice and determination to master. And yet, despite all of that, it's still a blast to play, and a great representation of each character and PlayStation as a whole. There are no clones or reskins. Everyone plays and acts not only differently, but how you would expect them to play in their own games. This is not only a great party game, but an excellent game to go up against Super Smash Bros. As stated before, I loved Sucker Punch and Sly Cooper on the PS2, so needless to say I was excited to see what they would do on the PS3, and they didn't disappoint. Infamous is not only a great open world and a third-person shooter game, but a great superhero game too. It was a blast to play as a righteous hero or a despicable villain, and the game often blurred the line between the two. I was super excited to see what the sequel would bring, and I was blown away by the sheer amount of things it offered. A more vibrant world with a lot of color and foliage, new powers of fire and ice, a bigger story, better combat, standout acting and animation, better graphics, and best of all, the inclusion of user-generated missions. They took what was so fun about the first game and simply amplified it. By the end of the game, you truly feel like an unstoppable god. Everything is pushed to the limit with this game, and it helps make it Sucker Punch's best game ever made. I'll be honest, I think the original BioShock is very overhyped. The first few hours are great, but once you kill your first Big Daddy, the game loses its sense of fear. BioShock Infinite starts off feeling very similar, until you meet Elizabeth. True, gameplays-wise, it's a standard FPS with no puzzles or much else to do, but the thing that makes this game shine so brightly is her. Her animation, her voice acting, the tragic story she goes on. All of these things pushes the game to another level and makes you connect with her so deeply. The way they tell the story will keep you guessing to the last second and leave you thinking about it months after you beat it. She is the main character of the game, not you, and everything you feel is seen through her eyes first and foremost. She's not only one of the most developed characters of this generation, but of any. Sure, as a game, BioShock Infinite doesn't offer much, but the world it creates and the journey it takes you on is simply unparalleled. One of my favorite developers is Naughty Dog. I grew up on Crash Bandicoot and Jak and Daxter, so by the time The Last of Us came around, I was ready for a more mature story from them, and by God I got it. The realism in this game and its sense of dread and despair have never been seen before like this, and you truly suffer along with these two characters as they go through hell on their journey. The biggest thing that helps sells the setting is the standout acting seen throughout the game. Be it big speeches or simple throwaway lines, both actors make you feel each character is real and flawed and human. Even the gameplay helps build this world, be it constantly keeping you on your toes by sneaking around, or being overwhelmed with many guns and fistfights. This game truly plays just like a real zombie apocalypse would, with great acting and world building. It's truly one of Naughty Dog's best games. Well, except for one. For the longest time, gamers have wanted to one day play a game that felt like a big Hollywood movie. The Uncharted series are the games we have all been waiting for that finally does that. With each game, they grew their acting and storytelling chops, making games that are not only a blast to play, but are so well written and acted, the cutscenes alone would make an excellent movie. Each game built upon the success of the last, but hands down, the best of the three has to be Among Thieves. A darker story, standout visuals, same great acting and gameplay that has defined the series, and it also introduced a truly original multiplayer mode. Drake Deception has its charm, but it simply can't hold a candle to the perfection they struck in Among Thieves. They all combine to make a game that is a blast to play, but even rivals many movies, including Indiana Jones itself. Many people enjoyed the darker world of The Last of Us, but personally, the fun, adventure, and the charm in Nathan Drake makes Uncharted not only Naughty Dog's best game, but the best PlayStation exclusive on the system. Superheroes have had a rocky history in gaming, with most leaning towards bad or horrible. Batman himself has had a huge pile of crap games. That's what makes the Arkham series' excellence all the more satisfying. Many games have let you play as Batman, but this is the first game to truly make you feel like Batman. The game has a standout combat system that revolutionized hand-to-hand combat ever since, a plethora of gadgets to not only help in combat, but solve truly brain-bending puzzles, and is the first game to truly acknowledge Batman's detective skills. What more, it's one of the best Batman stories ever told, be it on TV or movies, and even the comics themselves. The attention to detail, not only in the world itself, but to the characters and their relationships to each other and how they act is just jaw-dropping. Every tiny detail has been lovingly attended to help not only make a standout license game or even a great superhero game, but a truly engaging video game.
As stated before, the two big innovations for this generation were bigger, more dynamic, realistic worlds, and games that felt much more cinematic. And while a lot of people are good at one or two of those things, I feel there's only one developer who's able to encapsulate both of those things at the same time. That developer being Rockstar. I mean, any one of their games could be number one. GTA 4 has great characters and an engaging story, and GTA 5 has the most realistic world I've ever seen in my life. However, I only think there's one game that is able to get both of these things right at the same time, and that game is Red Dead Redemption.
Rockstar has become experts in creating cities, but Red Dead is the first game to truly feel like a world. The way the animals roam in the wild, the random people you encounter out in the wilderness, the way people go about their day-to-day lives. No matter where you look, you always feel like you're in a western. There are so many varied environments you encounter, ranging from barren deserts to snow-covered mountains. The story is truly compelling, always engaging, and a great western story honoring many of the tropes of the genre. John Marston is one of the most human and likable and believable characters gaming has ever seen. You always connect with him, be it in the story or even during the insane amount of side missions to do. Hunting, card games, races, bounties, quick draws, everything fits perfectly within this world. Hell, the way they handle the endgame still strikes me in awe to this day, and I hope many others follow suit. I could spend hours talking about this game, but the simple fact is no other game has made me laugh, cry, and cheer, not only as I played it, but even as I think about it now. Yeah, I fully admit westerns are one of my favorite genres, so I may seem a little biased, but the story, gameplay, world, and sheer attention to detail speaks for itself. Rockstar truly is the best game developer in the world, and their shining gem to prove this point is Red Dead Redemption. It isn't just the best Rockstar game. It isn't just the best PS3 game. It isn't even just the best game of this generation. It is hands down the best video game ever made. Period.